in a sprawling quarry, where a fortress rises like a monstrous shadow against the horizon. Hundreds of slaves toil under the relentless, searing gaze of the sun. Their bodies ache, their spirits crushed, as they carry out orders barked at them, lifting water, filling holes with rice straw, and other backbreaking tasks. The air is thick with the stench of sweat and despair. The workers moving like ghosts, their faces etched with exhaustion and resentment. Overseeing this grim scene is a goblin, perched smugly atop a massive log carried by two humans. The man at the front, Choi Hack, wears a grimace, his face a mask of pain as he struggles to bear the weight of the log and his own suffering. This is how Choi Hack's story begins, a slave in a world that has stripped him of everything. But let's rewind. Before this nightmare, Choi Hack was Hennick, a professional wrestler hailed as the strongest man in the world. At just 27, he had claimed the championship title for 2 years, boasting an unblemished record of 23 wins and 0 losses. His name was synonymous with invincibility, and his retirement promised a life of luxury, wealth, and women. But fate had other plans. The infamous white truck of doom struck, cutting his life short and rendering his hard-earned savings worthless. As Hennick faced his end, he thought, maybe this is for the best. No more grueling training, no more defenses. No family or friends to mourn me. But just as he resigned himself to oblivion, a blinding light pierced the darkness. From it emerged an angel named Rachel, a headhunter tasked with scouting souls. She apologized for her tardiness and addressed Hennick as an SS-class warrior, offering him 2 choices: accept death and reincarnate as a pitiful old bachelor, or be resurrected as a warrior to save a world in desperate need of a hero. Hennick's mind raced. The second option sounded enticing, a world waiting for him, surely filled with women and luxuries. But Rachel's explanations were vague, and Hennick hesitated. Sensing his doubt, Rachel rambled on about the perks: a status screen to track his growth, the chance to become stronger, and the promise of a village chief's hospitality. She even dangled the carrot of the chief's renowned beautiful daughter, using puppets to illustrate her point. Hennick, unimpressed, remained skeptical. Rachel, undeterred, switched tactics. She turned away, feigning indifference. "Fine," she said. "If you'd rather be reincarnated as an old bachelor, toiling away in your next life, that's your choice. But who knows? You might not even be reborn as a human." Panicked, Hennick grabbed her feet and begged her to wait. He agreed to her terms, choosing the path of the warrior. Rachel smiled wickedly, her plan succeeding. Without further ado, she sent him off in a flash of light, leaving him no time for training or orientation. But the wonderful world Rachel promised was anything but. Hennick awoke in a dimly lit room, greeted by a voice threatening to gouge out his eyes. Before he could react, a sharp punch to the gut sent him reeling. He looked up to see a towering figure, a man of pure muscle, wearing a bullhead mask. This was Redrun, the demon lord overseeing the fortress. Redrun demanded to know why Hennick was lazing about instead of working. Confused, Hennick declared himself a warrior, but Redrun only laughed, dismissing him as another delusional fool. Hennick, convinced this was some kind of test, launched a kick at Redrun's head. To his shock, the blow barely fazed the demon lord. Redrun grabbed Hennick's ankle and punched him again, knocking him out cold. When Hennick awoke, he found himself in a cell, his dreams of luxury shattered. A goblin named Jack, the nastiest of the guards, threatened to cook him alive if he caused trouble. Hennick, now Choi Hack, seethed with frustration. He had been scammed. The village chief, the beautiful daughter, the promised paradise. All lies. A voice from the next cell broke his thoughts. It was another self-proclaimed warrior, a senior who explained their grim reality. They were all slaves in a fortress ruled by the demon Lord Redrun, sent there by a demon named Rachel. Instead of starting in cities or rural areas, they had been dumped into the heart of the demon lord's army, their dreams of heroism crushed before they could even begin. Choi Hack's anger burned brighter than the sun that scorched the quarry. He summoned his status window, the one perk Rachel had mentioned. It appeared before him, displaying his stats. Level 1, no skills, and 0 hero points. The senior warrior was impressed, believing Choi Hak had the potential to escape and help them all. But Choi Hak wasn't interested in playing the hero. He just wanted to survive. As night fell, Choi Hak examined his status window again. Two options stood out: magic energy and hero points. The others had no idea about hero points, which intrigued him. Just as he was about to explore further, a familiar light appeared. Rachel, now the size of a delicate fairy with 4 translucent wings fluttering like gossamer, eagerly offers to explain the concept of warrior points, also known as hero points. Her voice brims with enthusiasm as she describes how these points are a game-changing feature, capable of turning the tide of one's life. They can be earned by completing quests, she explains, her tiny hands gesturing animatedly. But before she can finish her speech, Choi Hak grabs her, his massive fingers dwarfing her fragile form. He's not thrilled to see her again, and he certainly doesn't care about warrior points. His anger boils over like a volcano, furious at being swindled into this nightmare with promises of a village chief's daughter and a life of luxury. In a fit of rage, he gives her a thorough beating, venting his frustration on the tiny, winged figure. Later, Rachel hangs limply from a stick, her wings drooping like wilted petals. She apologizes, her voice trembling, and explains that a mistake, a spilled cup of coffee on her magic circles, had sent him to this demon lord's lair instead of the promised paradise. As punishment for her blunder, she was demoted and assigned as Choi Hak's personal fairy, bound to him until he defeats the Demon King. Despite her demotion, she still has 100 years of internship to endure. As they discuss, the system envelopes them in a cocoon of soundproofing magic, shielding their conversation from prying ears. To Rachel's surprise, Choi Hak declares he's no longer interested in becoming a warrior. The idea of constantly fighting and fulfilling some grand mission holds no appeal for him. He'd rather live a simple, albeit miserable, life as a slave than chase after glory. Rachel, desperate, argues that even among countless prospective heroes, Choi Hak has the potential to reach SS-level greatness. But he remains unmoved, insisting he has no obligation to save anyone or defeat the Demon King. Rachel, exasperated, wonders if he's just another muscle-brained fool, obsessed only with fighting and women. But let's rewind to what really happened when Rachel received her punishment. Despite admitting her mistakes, she couldn't accept her demotion to becoming Choi Hak's personal fairy. To make matters worse, she was bound to him until he defeated the Demon King. The divine overseer, unmoved by her protests, declared the decision final. As a personal fairy, Rachel's duties would include active cooperation, sharing in both his successes and failures. The overseer reminded her that she wouldn't be able to return until her assignment was complete. With no other choice, Rachel was sent to where Choi Hak was, forced to remain by his side at all times. The only problem? Anyone could see her. When someone knocked on Choi Hak's door, he quickly grabbed Rachel and hid her. Thankfully, Rachel's stealth magic kept her concealed, and the goblin guard, Jack, didn't notice her presence. Jack ordered Choi Hak to report to Redrun's office. There, to his surprise, Redrun complimented him. Apparently, Jack had taken a liking to Choi Hak as his mount and had put in a good word for him. Redrun offered Choi Hak the position of head slave, tasking him with speeding up the slave's productivity. Rachel was vehemently against this promotion, but Choi Hak accepted it with gusto, promising to do his best to make the other humans work harder. Redrun, pleased with his enthusiasm, promised to write a letter recommending Choi Hak to the Demon King's army. And just like that, Choi Hak's dream of escaping the fortress vanished like smoke in the wind. But survival was his priority, and he resolved to do whatever it took to stay alive. Surprisingly, the role of head slave suited him well. Within days, Choi Hak was relishing the power, barking orders, belittling his fellow humans, and leading chants praising the Demon King. The system noticed his efforts and awarded him points for his hidden ability, charisma. Anything that increased his points or level was welcome to Choi Hak. but the other slaves thought he'd lost his mind. Rachel, too, was appalled by his actions. She reminded him that his true goal was to escape and embark on his own adventure. But Choi Hak shot back, reminding her that it was the system that had guided him to this path. On the night Choi Hak accepted the position, Rachel confronted him, calling him crazy for bowing down to the Demon King's army so easily. Choi Hak, furious, grabbed her and blamed her for landing them in this mess. Just then, a hero quest appeared, informing him of his new mission. The system acknowledged that his predicament was due to someone's mistake, clearly referring to Rachel, and gave him a chance to prove himself. His mission? Gain Redrun's favor to earn 100 hero points. After all, a true hero must know his enemies. Rachel was baffled by this unique quest, as only a higher-up could alter missions. She couldn't understand why such a quest had been given to Choi Hak. Later, Jack ordered Choi Hak to report to Redrun's office again. Redrun complimented him on the increased productivity among the slaves. Choi Hak, ever the smooth talker, humbly credited Redrun's guidance for the success. Rachel rolled her eyes at the cheap flattery, but to her astonishment, Redrun blushed beneath his bullhead mask. The system informed them that Choi Hak had successfully gained Redrun's favor, completing the hero quest. Choi Hak was stunned that Redrun was so easily swayed by flattery, but he knew he had to strike while the iron was hot. He asked for permission to train the slaves, claiming it would further improve their work efficiency. He even employed marketing strategies, convincing Redrun that the fortress could be completed faster. Redrun, though skeptical, agreed to the idea, impressed by Choi Hak's initiative. Meanwhile, Rachel lamented Choi Hak's actions, but he revealed his true plan: to use the slaves to start a rebellion. Since becoming head slave, he had learned crucial information. The fortress housed 3,000 human slaves, guarded by only about 500 soldiers from the Demon King's army. Additionally, a human alliance base was located nearby. If Choi Hak could rally the slaves and seek help from the human alliance, they could overthrow Redrun and his troops. Rachel's spirits lifted at this stroke of genius. Choi Hak then checked the hero store, eager to see what he could purchase with his newly earned points. To his dismay, the only notable skills available were mundane abilities like holding his breath longer and delaying bowel movements. The rest were household chores. Rachel burst into laughter, explaining that since Choi Hak was still at level 1, only basic skills were available. If he increased his stats and leveled up, more options would unlock. Annoyed, Choi Hak shut her up. Days passed, and Choi Hak continued training the slaves. Order was maintained, and they chanted praises for the Demon King and his army. Redrun, pleased with the progress, commended Choi Hak. But just then, Jack burst into the office with urgent news. The human army was advancing toward the fortress. The 8th Division, the largest unit in the area and the last bastion of defense for the Demon King's army, had been defeated. It was only a matter of time before the enemy reached them. Jack urged Redrun to escape, but Redrun hesitated, recalling an important war concept: military supplies. A competent supply officer was invaluable, and Redrun saw potential in Choi Hak's ability to unite the slaves. Deciding to save him, Redrun grabbed Choi Hak and ordered him to come along as they fled. The human army breached the fortress gates, their spears and arrows raining down like a storm. Redrun, using his devastating technique called the 7th movement, obliterated the attacking soldiers with a wave of explosive destruction. Choi Hak, trembling with fear, realized the sheer power of the demon officer. Rachel urged him to escape and ally with the human army, but Choi Hak silenced her, knowing it was too late for such plans. Meanwhile, the human army successfully invaded the fortress, driving out the demon forces. The slaves who hadn't escaped were gathered before Alvin Grimir, a duke from the Drasen Empire and leader of the Alliance. Once the evacuation of civilians was confirmed, Alvin ordered the execution of the self-proclaimed warriors among the slaves, in a convoy of carriages fleeing the fortress. Choi Hak sat shaking with fear, having witnessed Redrun's terrifying power. Rachel whispered that it wasn't too late to escape and join the human army, but Choi Hak told her to keep quiet. Redrun, who had dozed off during the journey, woke up and asked Choi Hak what was wrong. Hanok, ever the quick thinker, saves his skin by gushing about how honored he feels to be traveling with Redrun again. The demon officer, caught off guard by this blatant flattery, blushes like a schoolgirl, his bullhead mask doing little to hide his embarrassment. He informs Hanok that they're about to reach the headquarters of the 3rd Corps unit, where he plans to officially enlist Hanok in the Demon King's army. Hanok keeps repeating how honored he is, but inside he feels like he's been hit by a boulder, stunned and utterly terrified. When they arrive at the fortress, Redrun marches straight to the commander's office with Hanok trailing behind like a lost puppy. Redrun reminds Hanok to mind his manners in front of the commander unless he wants to meet an untimely end. They enter an elegant hallway, its walls dripping with opulence, and stop in front of a luxurious door. Redrun announces himself to Commander Hyuse, and a voice, smooth as silk but with an edge like a razor, invites them, and at Hanok's curiosity peaks. Is Commander Hyuse a woman? Indeed, she is. Hyuse, the commander of the Demon King's army's 3rd Corps, sits regally in her golden chair, her presence as commanding as a storm. She's a striking figure, her curves accentuated by her imposing stature, but her face and body are marred by noticeable stitches, and a blindfold covers her eyes. Despite her intimidating appearance, Hyuse greets Redrun warmly, complimenting his physique. Redrun, ever the charmer, returns the praise, saying she's grown even more beautiful. He then apologizes for failing to defend the fortress, but Hyuse waves it off, blaming the 8th commander for the debacle. Though she smiles, her immense aura and disappointment hang heavy in the room, suffocating Hanok, who feels like he's drowning under the pressure, greater even than Redrun's. Eventually, Hyuse notices Hanok. Redrun explains who he is and expresses his intention to enlist him in the army. Hyuse is intrigued. Redrun is rarely impressed by anyone, let alone a human. This should be interesting, she thinks. She points out that Hanok's body looks frail, and while it's not unheard of for a human to join the army, she's skeptical. Redrun offers to personally train Hanok, but Hyuse disagrees, insisting that Redrun shouldn't waste his time on a mere human. As she speaks, the stitches on her face open, revealing monstrous, flower-like appendages around her mouth. From within, she pulls out another creature, a sight so horrifying it sends shivers down Hanok's spine. Hyuse introduces the creature as Bobo, a demon dog, and declares that Hanok will be its new caretaker. Hanok's face pales as he realizes the gravity of his new role. Hyuse notices his terror and asks if he doesn't like the idea. Hanok, ever the survivor, immediately salutes and declares he willingly accepts the responsibility. Thankfully, Bobo doesn't seem aggressive toward him, at least not yet. The demon dog latches onto Hanok, its slobbery tongue leaving a trail of drool. Hyuse warns Hanok that Bobo is growing and must be fed constantly. If he gets hungry, he tends to eat his caretakers. Bobo has his own quarters, and that's where Hanok and Rachel will stay as well. Once alone, a new quest from the system appears. Hanok must survive the next few days by earning Bobo's affection. If he succeeds, he'll earn 200 hero points. Hanok stares at the sleeping Bobo, wondering how he'll pull this off. Just then, a goblin enters the room, another caretaker for the pet. Hanok realizes everyone expects him to end up as Bobo's snack. The dog wakes up and begins licking the goblin's head. Terrified, the goblin hides behind Hanok and offers him as the dog's next meal. Hanok, not about to become demon dog food, grabs the goblin and throws it toward Bobo, shouting snack time. Bobo devours the goblin in seconds, leaving Hanok and Rachel speechless. But Bobo's hunger isn't satisfied. He spots Rachel and starts chasing her. Hanok frantically checks the hero store and finds an extra-large bone for 30 hero points. He buys it and throws it to Bobo, who's entertained for all of 30 seconds. Hanok quickly realizes his safety depends entirely on whether Bobo gets his fresh meat. But dogs are dogs, no matter their origin, and Hanok shouts, "Walk!" Bobo immediately sits, attentive and waiting. Hannock leads the dog outside, intending to take it to the kitchen. Bobo is overexcited, and Hannock has to constantly call its attention. Rachel scouts for directions to the kitchen and spots another goblin. Hannock asks for directions, but the goblin freezes in terror at the sight of Bobo, who's already eyeing him like a snack. Hannock reminds Bobo that the goblin is not food, and the goblin, trembling, points them to the left before bolting. Hannock and Rachel burst into laughter at the goblin's fear. Hannock decides to get meat from the kitchen to calm Bobo down. When Rachel asks if he's serious about taking care of the dog, Hannock replies that if he ever has a family in the future, having a dog is a must. Taking care of Bobo is just practice. But as they speak, Bobo disappears. Hannock's frustration reaches its peak. He's known from the start that being Bobo's caretaker was a death sentence. The dog has the attention span of goldfish, a taste for goblins, and could eat him at any moment. It's a disaster waiting to happen. Fortunately, Rachel spots Bobo near an enclosure. Hannock puts on his best puppy eyes, but he notices blood on Bobo's mouth. The dog looks happy and full. Apparently, in the short time he was missing, he terrorized a goblin quarters, annihilated most of them, and ate someone named Commander Regis. Hannock and Rachel are dumbfounded. Hannock picks up Bobo, and they run as a mob of angry goblins chases them. If Hannock doesn't act fast, half the fortress's population will end up as Bobo's dinner.